So there's a lot of talk about carbohydrates as well along the fitness industry, saying that they are brutal to achieving results in fat loss. That ketogenic diets are the way, but the simple fact is that almost all research specifically requires the incorporation of a carbohydrate based diet in order to optimize training performance in the gym. Carbohydrates get depleted through everyday activity, and they need to be replenished in order to optimize training performance so that you can train with enough intensity in order to promote muscle growth. For a lot of endurance exercisers, typically the primary fuel source that your body would utilize would be specifically fats from the lower amount of intensity, and as intensity gradually increases from walking all the way up until the most extreme forms of exercise, glucose, which is the breakdown form of carbohydrates, gets served to the body to optimize performance throughout training. So carbohydrates are very, very vital to the diet. Not only are they very vital to training, but they also provide very specific micronutrients, not only in the form of vitamins and minerals. They actually provide amino acids as well, which help improve neurotransmitter receptor signalation of the brain to the body. Specifically, one of those amino acids called tryptophan, which is found in bread, very starchy carb. That specific amino acid helps increase the amount of serotonin that is released from the brain into the bloodstream to help with improved feelings of relaxation as well as sexual desire function. Helps you feel euphoric on a regular everyday basis when you include carbohydrates in your diet. So I have the tendency to consume carbs later on at night. They also help improve sleep quality when you consume carbohydrates, and they also help the body within the balance of the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. When you eat carbs, you consume food, insulin raises to store nutrients to make you feel nourished. When you combine carbohydrates with intermittent fasting, you almost get this super compensation effect where basically when you consume food in the right portions relative to your calorie intake and those nutritional requirements, it actually improves nutrient partitioning, which is a process in where the body utilizes and stores nutrients to where they need to go without any potential spillover into the fat stores. So typically when you combine intermittent fasting to your everyday approach with proper nutrition, basically just amplify the effects of weight loss, which would lead to lower blood glucose levels, lower inflammation, as well as improved cognitive function, power output, growth hormone production. All of that incredible things can also be benefited from using intermittent fasting in your everyday lifestyle. So carbohydrates are very, very optimal for cognitive function as well, because the brain solely utilizes glucose as its primary fuel source, which is the breakdown of carbohydrate. So when carbohydrate is ingested and insulin rises, the first thing to do to replenish the body is to restore muscle glycogen and liver glycogen for the brain and body to use properly. The reason why you cannot train as intensely with a diet low in carbohydrates is because carbohydrates actually aid in muscle contraction. So preventing yourself from eating carbs to lose weight can be really detrimental when your overall result is to gain muscle. So carbohydrates also have a protein sparing effect to where they get utilized first before the breakdown of protein begins to help aid in glucose production. This is what ketogenic diets tend to do, is prevent muscle sparing, but most of the time when you have a balanced protein intake, when you have an adequate protein intake, you necessarily can go without carbs for an extended duration, especially when you're eating high amounts of protein, because that eventually breaks down into glucose to fuel the brain and body with nourishment to use. But all three of those macronutrients can also be converted into glucose in some form, but the most efficient form of glucose is only provided through carbohydrates. And some of the benefits that you'll see with carbohydrates is that they make you feel super, super good when you consume them when you're at a calorie deficit, because of the feelings of how incredible they are to consume, as well as the benefits that they provide. So carbohydrates though the proper adequate range would be from 45 to 65% of total calorie intake, usually within a range of about 55 to 60 is what I shoot for on a regular basis. The rest of my diet is set from the amount of protein I eat, which is about 20% of my total calories, and fat takes up the rest. But it always depends on what I'm kind of craving. Typically when I'm craving a lot of pasta, potatoes, I'll go lower in fat content of the meal that I provide. It'll always be an adequate amount to satisfy my everyday needs of satisfaction of having fat in my diet. So typically what I choose to buy at the grocery store are a lot of low-fat products, but I like to fit in my foods with exactly the amount of cheese, the amount of actual volume of food that I can potentially eat in order to lose fat. So typically lean meat sources, fiber-rich and starchy carbs, and you only need a certain amount of dietary fiber. That can also mess with testosterone levels as well. If you're going too high in fiber intake, you only need about 25 grams of fiber for women and about no less than 30 grams for a man to optimize digestion as well. But going from there, the typical intake that I like to have in a meal is a lot of starchy carbohydrates such as potatoes, and I love to eat cheese, so typically I don't cook most of my foods with oils unless I'm really craving fried food. Typically I'll fry my food in coconut oil, which is also high in monounsaturated fats. So my typical meal is a lot of chicken, lean steak, ground beef, fish with the side of either potatoes or some kind of pasta with a cheese sauce. I love dippings for my potatoes. I love to cover my potatoes in cheese. So that is a lot of what my diet is consisted of in order to hit my energy requirements on an everyday basis to lose fat. And you can really go anywhere between the 30% to maintenance in order to lose fat. You don't have to eat at that 30% deficit. You can gradually lose weight by eating maybe 10% or 20% less than your total calorie expenditure per day, but I find it very satisfying to lose fat at a faster pace. So the 30% deficit is where I stick my calories for the day at. So I hope you liked this video. There was a lot of information. I know it got kind of long, but I hope you learned something. If you did, please leave a like, and I will see you at the next video. Thank you so very much for watching. Have a wonderful day.
You can't tell me shit, tell me nothing. Anything I want, I pull up in.